this headline: Nicaragua takes Germany to court over supplying arms to Israel. A new case before the International Court of Justice argues that the German government is furthering genocide in the Gazan war. Now, the reason why this case is so important, because what this case is designed to do and what Nicaragua is trying to make clear for the international community is to get an answer to the question, what does the obligation to prevent and to punish the crime of genocide, what does that actually mean? And they are actually flowing these questions out for people to answer. What is the obligations that follow from the Geneva Convention, Article 1, which requires all states to respect and ensure the implication of international law. Act 1, Article 1 requires all states to respect and ensure the implication of international law. So that's what this trial is designed to put out there. What does it actually mean? What does Article 1 mean? And we have a new movement right now where there's no longer a third world. It's not just third world countries. It's the global South. Countries now have to acknowledge that this is a global South. And the global South is demanding answers from the West regarding what is actually international law. And this case is huge because it sets the groundwork to hold Genocide Joe accountable. It set the groundwork to hold Joe Biden, Anthony Blinken, Lloyd Austin, Raytheon, all these people providing weapons accountable. Which is why it's a devastating case for the West, and there's been damn near a complete media blackout over it. You can find it covering Al Jazeera, they've been furious at Israel because they've killed multiple journalists over the course of Israel's genocide. But not only that, they killed prominent journalist Shireen Abu Akleh as well. Got away with it. So I'm going to read this because this is what I'm going to just read a little bit of this. Here's a summary of Nicaragua's case against Germany, and I'm going to play a little bit of the video. Let me share this tab instead. Because their argument, just like South Africa, was rock solid. They outlined the following main points in his country's case against Germany. Since October 9th or 10th, Germany has been aware that Israel is committing serious violations of international law. Now, pause there. So this is a very important point. And this is, in the entire trial, an entire argument that made is around 2 hours, because they present evidence that shows that Germany knew that Israel is committing violations of international law and plans to continue to. But it's not only that Germany is fulfilling their role as ally to Israel, because they outline in their case that Germany has increased arms sales, well, not arms sales, just giving weapons to Israel by around 500% since then. So not only did they supply weapons to Israel, they increased it after knowing Israel was committing serious violations of international law. This is a direct violation of the Genocide Conventions. You guys see how the West is rebelling against international law? The West is trying to render international law, and you can make the argument, because I know some people already have, that they have forever, and they have. But now they don't even want to have the pretext that they had to follow international law anymore. Like Germany themselves was offended was offended at the audacity that Nicaragua would put charges against them. The same way that the West was offended because South Africa had the audacity to put charges against Israel. The West position is clear. The people in the global South, the people they call the third world, black, brown countries, you guys know your fucking place. You guys know your fucking role, and you guys don't ever step to the fucking king, which is us. It's an insanely infuriating position, and a lot of people in the world are now rebelling against it. Since the ICJ ruling on January 26, Germany has been aware that Israel violations may amount to an act of genocide. Nevertheless, Germany has continued to violate its international obligation to stop these breaches while continuing to supply aid to Israel. Regarding Western retaliation, do you guys know that the United States is floating ending diplomatic relations with South Africa because they put because of the genocide trial of the ICJ? Let me see if I can find that receipt. I wasn't planning on showing you guys, but I'm thinking about doing a hotspot on this soon. Africa. Actually, what can I search to find this? Africa Review Relations. Here it is. House Foreign. Oh, Jesus Christ. Look at this. This shows you guys how mad the West is at Africa for daring doing their obligation for international law. So I need people to state this clearly. The West is rebelling and revolting against the structures of international law that we have in place. House Foreign Affairs Committee approves bill seeking review of U.S.-South Africa relationship. The legislation is a response to African nations' growing relationships with Iran, Russia, China, and Iran, and its genocide case against Israel at the International Court of Justice. Just like with Niger, Russia, China, the reason why the West is getting upset with these countries is because those countries are increasing their influence in Africa. And now they're trying to label South Africa as enemy because of that, and because they are holding Germany accountable and Israel accountable for genocide. So the question I have for people, well, not for any of our audience, I don't even think many people to my right would agree, because I've seen the most unhinged Zionist takes. And I've seen the people who push this bill that say South Africa is an evil actor working for Putin to destabilize the West. You guys have no idea the kind of stuff I've seen on cable news, but I never had time to show you guys. That's the kind of shit that they would say about South Africa simply for pursuing genocide charges. So the people who say, oh, well, South Africa is this nefarious actor, the argument I kept making is, what does South Africa actually gain for this? Because when you look at the South African legal team, when you look at the South Africa as a country itself, what do they actually have to gain from this? What do they only have to lose from this? To stand with the Palestinians is actually extremely brave. Germany has continued to violate its international. So they explain how they knew about the violation of international law, because knowing about that is important, proving that legally. They explain how they violated their international obligations inside the breaches. They continue to supply Israel, and they add, and I'm gonna show you guys the demands that Nicaragua is demanding for Germany. Germany, as party to the Genocide Convention, must halt this course of action and respect its international obligations. This is the steps that are going to be needed to take to hold people like Genocide Joe in the West accountable. So anyway, I'm gonna play this video. You guys see, this is on the ground. Hours. This is 2 hours of Nicaragua dismantling Israel. So I'll play just a little bit of it. I think it's good.
Mr. President, members of the court, good morning. It is my honor to come before you representing Nicaragua in a case involving its rights and obligations, as well as those of the entire international community, and most importantly, those of the Palestinian people. The case before us involves momentous events affecting the life and well-being of hundreds of thousands of people, and even the destruction of an entire people. But in spite of the gravity of the situation, the facts in the law are very simply explained. Serious breaches of international humanitarian law and other peremptory norms of international law, including genocide, are taking place in Palestine. These breaches are being committed openly, have been witnessed on the ground by thousands of people, and have been viewed on public news services and social media by probably the majority of the population of the world. When a situation of this nature occurs or is in danger of occurring, the obligation for all states are clear. Not only states must not abet the situation by aiding or assisting the perpetrator, but they must use their best efforts to ensure respect for these fundamental norms and prevent their breaches. With respect to these obligations, there are no third states. All states are under the obligation to respect them. They are erga omnes obligations. Germany has violated these obligations imposed on all states. Mr. President, Nicaragua is not a newcomer to the court. On 9 April 1984, tomorrow it will be 40 years, Nicaragua filed an application against the United States for serious violations of international law against its rights and sovereignty. The present case is different, but it has a striking similarity. 40 years ago, in this month of April, during the hearings on provisional measures requested in that case, Nicaragua was asking, among other things, that the court order, and I quote, that the United States should immediately cease and desist from providing directly or indirectly any support, including training, arms, ammunition, supplies, assistance, finances, direction, or any other form of support to any nation, group, organization, movement, or individual engaged or planning to engage in military or paramilitary activities in or against Nicaragua. End of quote. In the present case, Nicaragua is also requesting the court to order that Germany should cease providing support to Israel in its campaign of destruction of the Palestinian people. But in the present case, Nicaragua is acting not only on its own behalf on the basis of the rights and obligations conferred by the peremptory norms invoked, but also on behalf of the Palestinian people that is being subjected to one of the most destructive military actions in modern history. Beyond its legal rights and obligations in bringing this case, the government and people of Nicaragua have a special sympathy for the plight of the Palestinian people. Nicaragua has not had to suffer the levels of inhuman treatment and destruction that has been the fate of Palestine for more than three-quarters of a century. Nonetheless, it has also been subject to intervention and military attacks for most of its existence and feels empathy for the Palestinian people. On the subject of empathy and sympathy, it is of note that Germany emphasizes that its assistance to Israel is a raison d'etat because of the historical treatment of the Jewish people during the Nazi regime. That is an understandable and laudable policy if it were addressed to the Jewish people. The Israeli state, in particular its present government, should not be confused and equated with the Jewish people. The real friends of the Jewish people should emphasize the difference. The Jewish victims in the concentration camps during the Second World War will feel sympathy and empathize with the more than 30,000 civilians, including 25,000 mothers and children massacred so far in Palestine, and the 20,000 children orphaned, and 2 mothers being killed every hour. States like Germany that sympathize with what the state of Israel was meant to represent when it was created should be doing their best to put a stop to what is happening and not continue backing Israel in practice.
Now that's devastating. And another reason why this is just a PR disaster for Germany, because think about it. 80 years later, and now Germany is back on trial for supporting genocide. Germans in the West thought they was above this, and they was not. And I saw some people in the comments mention this, and yeah, it's true. Nicaragua has someone who is of German descent who destroyed Germany for supporting genocide. A German lawyer, I should say, who destroyed Germany for supporting genocide and being back at trial after 80 years of supporting a genocide before. And you guys think Germany is happy about this? I'll say it again. We are witnessing a Western revolt against international law and their own people. Against the will of their own people, they sent arms to Nazis in Ukraine. You have members of the Biden administration resigning en masse. You have letters being written. I mean, I don't think that's strong, but it shows you dissent. People in their own government dissenting against Biden, dissenting against the West, dissenting against EU. In Germany, I haven't covered it a lot, has been chaos since October 7th. Their government is ran by a bunch of Zionists who have a coordinated interest in promoting the state of Israel, because Germany was like, we want to put the blame of the Holocaust on the Palestinians, which they successfully have done. Are the German people paying for the Holocaust? No, the Palestinians are. That was always the plan of Germany. Check out the hotspot video that Nico House made. Amazing, groundbreaking journalism, groundbreaking reporting, showing how this was always the plan. Nazis, Germany, they always had the plan to avoid accountability for the Holocaust, to support this apartheid state of Israel, and then puts the blame on the Palestinians. Why is no one else saying like that? Because that's clear what Germany has done. That is the entire ethos of their state over the last few decades. To the point where you have 600 German bureaucrats that challenging Olaf Scholz among the ICJ trial, because there's a blackout here, and I'm sure there's blackouts among mainstream German outlets, but this is hitting like crack in Germany. And I mean that by every sense of the word. It's hitting bad. This shit's hitting like crack. You have people, especially you had this large anti-war coalition that was already established because the Ukraine war that carried on since the beginning, October 7th. There's a lot of grassroots pressure among the German anti-war left that people actually learn something from the Holocaust, but they are silenced by the authoritarian West that never listen. In fact, they despise their people. Meanwhile, people have the audacity to say that China, DPRK, and other countries are authoritarian and totalitarian. Look at how our government is responding to the massive revolt against them supporting a genocide. You have German politicians, German activists begging their government to stop arming genocidal terrorists. You have 80%, at least 70% of Jewish Democrats who support a ceasefire. Let me repeat that for you, because that's the number I do have on hand. Around 71% of Jewish Democrats support a ceasefire, and the response of the Biden administration is fuck you. The vast majority of their party, independents, 58% evangelicals want a ceasefire. They want arms transfer to Israel to end. For the first time in my life, the majority of Americans are against arms sales to Israel. This is an amazing thing, or it would be if we didn't live in an authoritarian hellhole. I am begging my friends, and this is the most important thing I do, my friends, is to get you guys to stop talking shit about other countries. Stop the bullshit about Iran. Stop the bullshit about North Korea. Stop the bullshit about China. The same way you guys talk about them is the same energy you need to bring to our fucking country. Because everything you guys accuse them of, we are that and some. Everything you guys accuse Hamas of being, we are that and some. Everything you guys accuse the Chinese Communist Party of being, we are that and some. So all the people who've been triggered by my anti-American tweets, my videos, not more on YouTube, but guys, there's a lot of heat on me on Twitter, my friends. From white dudes that like take pictures in trucks with sunglasses on and a trucker hat. Boy, they hate my ass. And I love it. I love that these Western chauvinist snowflakes hate me. Because the height of cowardice are the people who spend their time criticizing other countries while they ignore criticizing their country because they know nothing would change. Oh, you're such a tough guy because you criticize Iran. Oh, look at the tough guy who spends time criticizing China because you're such a soft cuck. You don't think that you're going to actually accomplish anything in your country. You don't think you're going to end the corruption in your country. You don't think you're going to end the authoritarianism in your country. So you talk shit about other countries to make you feel better about yourself. RBN, Nick and CJ, we're the only people who call out the black people who engage in the culture war because they bitch over $9 million spent on migrants in Chicago. And I see people get mad at me for calling them out, but fuck them. You guys are bitching, complaining over $9 million, and why do they do that instead of calling out the billions of dollars that go to Israel? It's cowardice because they don't believe that they can seize the assets of the ruling class. They don't believe they're going to stop the aid that goes to Israel. They don't believe they're going to stop the $850 billion military industrial complex. So what do? They fight for scraps. They yell at the other brown people. They yell at immigrants. They fight for scraps and beg massa for some. They beg and massa for scraps instead of taking what they deserve. And some people got pissed at us calling this out. Oh my God, they spent a $9 million fucking migrant center. $9 million, not shit, fam. RBN is the only channel in existence that have the fucking common sense to say this. You guys fight for scraps, and you guys are wondering why we're not impressed. White people in white channels cheer them on. Have you guys noticed that? White people, oh my God, look at the black people upset at the migrants. Isn't it funny? The black people are fighting for scraps. Do you guys understand why me as a black man, I find these people embarrassing? You're fighting over scraps with black and brown people instead of calling out Israel. In the billions we send to Israel. The billions we send out in Nazi Ukraine. And why don't they do that? Why don't they do that? Because they're like, at the end of the day, because I push these people, they will say, oh, well, we know that's not going to end anyway. Oh, we know we're not going to end weapons sale to Israel. We know we're not going to end aid to Nazis, so we might well focus on the migrants because we're fucking cowards. We're fucking cowards who don't want to challenge the ruling class, so we're going to engage in culture war and have white people applaud us. That's what the fucking majority of cultural warriors in this country do, including black ones. And we lost subscribers, my friend. We lost potential because, RBN, we would have been at 500,000 subscribers when we played that goddamn game, telling white people what they want to hear, fighting for scrap for white massa like they want us to do. You guys know all the white people love the fact that these black people are complaining about migrants because they love seeing us fight for scraps. I have my eyes on the prize. I see the billions y'all send to Israel. I'm not going to demonize my migrant brothers and sisters for taking scraps. I see the trillions that you guys spend on corporate bailouts, but you guys want me to be worried about migrants? Get fucking serious. It's coward shit. You guys don't want to call out real power. You guys know you're not going to decrease the police budgets, so you guys call out the lesser. You guys call out the easy targets. That is what all these people with trucker hats do that is upset at my Twitter presence, because I know I'm much bigger on Twitter than YouTube. They're very upset because I don't buy this shit. Just like South Africa, Nicaragua's argument against the ICJ was on fucking point. Now let's listen.
The Palestinian people have the right to self-determination. That means that they have the right to take up arms against alien occupation and against racist regimes in the exercise of their right of self-determination, as enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations and the Declaration of Principles of International Law concerning friendly relations and cooperation among states in accordance with the Charter. The Palestinian people have the right.
Who else is one of the few people who had the balls to say that? RBN. One of the few channels that didn't take the cowardly position of condemning Hamas. We all acknowledge that Israel are full of baby murdering terrorists. We all know all the evils of Israel. But then you guys say Palestinians can't resist said state that you cover? You guys can tell by my tone, I am about tired of the United States left. The United States progressive class. Because these same people, including people who do good coverage on this, they will say, I'll condemn Hamas. You have Nicaragua, just like the UN Charter states, the Palestinians, Hamas are not terrorists because they have the legal right to self-defense against their criminal occupying regime. And all these white dudes with trucker hats who hate me on X because they're like, oh, Nick is a terrorist sympathizer. There are a lot of these right-wing motherfuckers that are like, man, Socialism MMA, man, what happened to him, man? He turned to a Hamas sympathizer. I used to think Socialism MMA was based, and then I turned against Israel. If you're one of those right-wingers who are upset at me because I am a quote-unquote terrorist sympathizer, you might as well give up your fucking guns right now. I have a question for you guys. If you guys think the Palestinians are terrorists for resisting Israel, if you guys don't believe Palestinians have the right to self-defense, we might as well tear up the Second Amendment. Give up your fucking guns. Because what you guys are saying is that people can never resist a government. The Second Amendment states that we, and I believe that all humans have the right to resist tyrannical governments. If there's any government that's tyrannical, it's Israel. They have illegal sentiments against the Palestinian people. So, sir, ma'am, Robbie, anyone else who have a problem with me, who root for Hamas, don't condemn Hamas, give up your guns. Because if you're saying the Palestinians don't have the right to resist Israel in any state, then no one does. Now you guys see why I don't get invites on shows? You guys see why Piers Morgan won't invite this pro-Palestinian activist on to debate? Why Tim Pool, despite me ratioing him multiple times, will never invite me on Timcast. I have good sources. I said it many times before. We blacklisted on Reuters. RBN is blacklisted. Because I would say shit that would blow their mind. If you're on the right and you condemn Hamas, give up your guns. But we know the fucking reality. We know the reality of what white America really believe, what Western chauvinists really believe. They believe in gun rights only for white people. When they talk about the Second Amendment shit, they're not talking about you. They're not talking about you. If white people ever get pissed off, they can take arms. Black people, God forbid. All of a sudden, Reagan was pro-gun control. White people became pro-gun control real quick when the Black Panthers, whose ideology inspired me, the reason why I will never listen to shit lived and disarm myself, as soon as they see black people disarm, they talk about gun control. The same white people like, man, I believe we should open carry. I live in one of these states. I live in Missouri, open carry states. They see black people with a gun, all of a sudden they want them arrested immediately. Imagine a young black man with a ton of tattoos walking in Walmart with a ton of guns. You guys think white people be okay with that? But they take selfies when their uncle does it. That's the reality of the situation. And this is what I'm going to continue to bring up to people. If you condemn Hamas, if you don't think they should resist Israel, give up your guns. The Second Amendment serves no purpose. Because at the end of the day, you don't even believe we have the right to resist a tyrannical government. They believe that the police have the right to kill you if you resist them. These people are pro-police bootlickers, but they think they're going to resist a tyrannical government? Under no circumstance should the proletariat ever give up arms. Don't, especially black people, my brothers, if you listening, don't listen to these liberals who are trying to fucking disarm us. Especially, now I'm going to give advice here because it's not my community, but if you're Muslim, definitely don't fucking disarm. There was a rise of anti-Islamic hate at the beginning of 9/11. It spiked since October 7th. You see how much white people hate you, but you want to give your guns up? You guys see how crazy these motherfuckers are, but you giving your guns up? Absolutely not. I am a Marxist. I am not a liberal. I hate liberalism. I despise liberalism. I rejected every single ounce of liberalism I used to have for my system. Don't ever let them convince you to disarm. Because I do believe that we need to resist tyrannical government. I talk about this all the time. We need to create self-government. It's not going to happen overnight. Talk about revolutionary theory, right? Once we create mutual aid societies, once we create self-governance, once we grow our own food, once we have mutual aid society, once we separate ourselves from the system, there's no point in having our own government without having our own militia, bro. And once we ever get to this step, which we are fighting to get to, that's when shit gets real, my friends. Because not only do we have a significant part of the population who disengages from the system, don't engage in electoral politics, we are sustaining ourselves through mutual aid societies. Now we got militias. This is shit that Rome working on. And all of a sudden, we have protests and cops won't show up. We like, man, we're not going to start shit, but we will defend ourselves. That's how you start revolutionary movements, my friend. Anyway, I need to stop ranting. I only got like 10 minutes left. I told myself this is definitely be an hour show, but I am behind. I read this tweet. Nicaragua, represented by a German lawyer, makes unimpeachable case as the genocide in Gaza escalated. Germany increased its arms shipments to Israel tenfold to fuel the massacre. So think about that. And not like Germany was just performing their duties as an ally to a state. They saw Israel's committing genocide. They're like, we will send you 10 times more weapons. They increased their arms sales from 30 million to 330 million. Wow. That's so fucking wild. So you guys see how the arguments, and I'm literally gotta edit this fucking segment. Damn, I'm always over prepared. You guys see how their arguments are devastating to Germany. And now Germany, a country that pretend they repented from their first genocide, they're now being charged with genocide 80 years later once again. So trust me, guys, Germany in the West has not handled this well. I show you guys how the United States, they're trying to end diplomatic relationships with South Africa. You had the United States that supported coups in Nicaragua before. They're definitely going to try again. They're definitely not happy with this. You guys can even see by the media coverage. For one, they finding stories on this from the Western media. Look, this is the European Politico branch. So I have to go to European Politico just to find the story, my friends. So first off, it's very important to know, in the United States, there's a media blackout over this story because they talk about the implications of supporting genocide, which is very dangerous for Genocide Joe, but not only him, but every single Republican in Congress. So this is like the scariest thing for them. They're like, no, you guys don't fucking talk about this. I went on YouTube, did a search on like all the corporate media channels because I wanted to do a propaganda report. Nobody. I saw some there's a few independent media channels that may or may not be to my, well, they definitely are to my right. They are to my right. They was covering it. But no, this is a story that is so devastating to them. Now listen to the framing of the article, because when they do talk about this story, they couldn't even remotely hide their bias. Germany slaps down Nicaragua charge it facilitates genocide in Gaza. Oh, Jesus Christ. Guys, it is Germany did not slap down Nicaragua charge genocide. You guys know essentially what Germany said? Germany was like, oh, well, Nicaragua proved once again that they're a bad faith actor and falling for Hamas propaganda. There is no evidence that they're genocide in Israel. They think that argument is slapping them down. Like, Germany's arguments have been essentially the same arguments you've seen from South Africa. And I'm gonna read you like some statements from them. I'll show you guys what Nicaragua said. Everything they said is devastating. All their accusations was devastating. And this is the list I was looking for earlier. Once again, they updated this article, so I had to scroll down further down. But look, this is the concluding remarks and what Nicaragua's request at the ICJ was, for example, just to highlight how devastating the overall case was and their demands. Germany must immediately suspend its aid to Israel, in particular its military assistance. Germany must immediately ensure that military equipment or weapons or other equipment used for military purposes already delivered by Germany and German entities to Israel are not used to commit or to facilitate serious violations of the Genocide Convention or international humanitarian law, and Germany must resume its support and financing of UNRWA, which, once again, every single person in the United States Senate and Germany and UK that have played a role in cutting UNRWA during a famine using torture-attained confessions, they have a special spot in hell. And that's why no one would ever convince me about Trump's arrangement. Lesser of two evils is dead. Trump didn't do anything that came close to the evil of Biden cutting UNRWA aid. I've asked this question many times on Twitter. No one have even come close. I've asked someone give me an example of something Trump did that's even closely as bad as Trump, as bad as Biden cutting aid to UNRWA during a famine. During a famine where the United States knew, where UK and Germany knew they wasn't getting aid into Israel. And they laid this out in a devastating case. You want to know what Germany said in response? They have no basis in fact or law. That's the kind of stuff they're saying in response to this. These white people are so arrogant. The West is so arrogant that they believe they can just say shit and then people will believe them. Do you guys know I try to show you guys as many receipts as possible, even though some of you guys probably view me as credible. The people who've been following me for a while, if you subscribe to the channel, you guys know I'm not making up shit. You know what I mean? But I still have this deep feeling that I had to show you guys my work. I show you guys articles, I read stuff instead of just interjecting my opinion. Because there's this feeling that I have to prove stuff to you guys. These Western leaders, these people, they just say stuff, and I really do believe they have this hubris and ideology. They believe that if they say it, if their white ass say it, we all should agree and we should all obey. They don't have to show receipts at all. That's how they do politics. That's how they believe life should be. And just like the Biden administration today, saying that there's no evidence that Israel's committing genocide. Just because they say it, they think it's true. There's another tweet. I think this is the same person. I saw her tweet. I think this is what they're talking about. Ursula Gletchen said that Nicaragua rushed to bring this case to court on the basis of the flimsiest of evidence. For example, she said they used flimsy evidence. How can you have flimsy evidence of Germany cutting UNRWA? How can you have flimsy evidence of Germany increasing their arms sales 10 times? You see how they just say stuff? Do you know what flimsy means? Nicaragua came up and just stated facts that are undeniable. But just like the Biden administration in the West, they just say stuff. She stressed Germany has left no stone unturned to address the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Once again, that doesn't remotely make sense considering you guys cut aid to the largest aid organization during a famine. Like, the amount of gaslighting coming from the West is truly psychotic. It's truly psychotic, and it's unbelievable that not many people are matching my tone. It's unbelievable that white America and people as a whole are not repeating what Muslims are saying when they say death to America. Because I talk to many of them. I see many of them respond to this controversy I started. They're not saying that every American should die, but the ideology that leads to the death of millions of Muslims, the ideology of Western imperialism, it should die. And if you support it, you should die too. And if you don't support it, if you're an ally like us, they don't want us to die. And I support that fucking premise, to be honest. Death to America means death to Western corruption, Western imperialism. We all should be saying that. We should have people as upset as we are, as upset as the protesters in the street, as it always should be.